Hey man, if you've ever truly sat down and tried to unravel the mystery of what women are attracted to, you probably hit a brick wall made of contradictions that leaves your head spinning. One moment she says she wants a kind, emotionally available man who listens and understands her on a deep level. But then, somehow, she's chasing after the guy who barely gives her the time of day, the one who acts distant, aloof, or even indifferent. She tells you she craves stability and commitment, yet you watch her heart flutter for the guy who disappears for days, never explaining where he's been or what he's thinking. You hold the door open, send thoughtful texts, plan meaningful dates, and invest time and energy. But she seems way more intrigued, way more alive around a mysterious guy who couldn't care less about her. And in that fog of confusion, most men start doubting themselves. Am I not enough? Am I doing something wrong? Why can't I be the one she wants? But what if I told you it's not about you at all? What if the problem isn't your effort or your worth, but the very nature of attraction itself? Because here's the brutal truth. Everything women are drawn to often defies logic and makes absolutely no damn sense. See, male desire is, in many ways, pretty straightforward. It's often driven by visual signals, curves, beauty, femininity, things that are easier to identify and understand. But female desire? It's an intricate, tangled symphony of emotions, power dynamics, unconscious signals, and fantasy. It doesn't function on reason, it functions on sensation. That's why she can say one thing and then completely respond to the opposite. She might say she wants a man who listens, but her body lights up when a man confidently leads. She says she values honesty, but she melts for mystery and unpredictability. She claims she wants safety, yet her attraction spikes when she feels just a little off balance, when things feel uncertain and thrilling. None of this is malicious or manipulative. It's not some game she's playing. It's simply how the feminine mind operates. Emotion first, logic later, if it shows up at all. This is why the nice guy almost always finishes last. Not because he's bad or lacking, but because he's predictable. And predictability kills arousal. You could be everything she says she wants, the perfect partner on paper, and still feel invisible to her emotional body. Because attraction isn't about credentials or being the best choice. It's about being the most felt choice. The man who triggers any strong emotion, whether excitement, curiosity, even frustration, will always have the edge over the man who just makes sense. That's why she'll bypass the safe, stable guy to fall for the emotionally unavailable one, because her nervous system wakes up in his presence, even if it hurts her. And here's the wildest part, even she doesn't fully understand it. Quick break, close your eyes for a second. Picture her, the girl you've always wanted. Feel what it would be like to actually have her. Now open your eyes, because here's the truth. Right now, you're invisible to her. You're getting outcompeted by guys with more money, better looks, higher status, and stronger game. You're playing a rigged game, and you're losing. But I've spent the last 35 years mastering this, studying, testing, and finally finding the secrets to get the girls I always wanted. You want to stop getting ignored? You want her chasing you? Then you need to wake up and act. Click the link in the comments if you are truly committed and take the first step toward becoming that guy. Few spots left. Be fast or miss out your last chance to make her yours. Let's get back to it. Here's the kicker. Even she doesn't fully understand it herself. Women aren't masterminds scheming some grand psychological plot to confuse you. Far from it. Most of the time, they're just as baffled by their own desires and emotional contradictions as you are. She might find herself saying, I don't know why I keep going back to him. He's so bad for me. And there you stand, loyal, consistent, showing up with your steady effort, wondering what on earth you're missing. But here's the thing, you're trying to make sense of what's fundamentally emotional with nothing but cold, hard logic. It's like trying to explain thunder by measuring the rain. Attraction isn't about fairness or reason. It rewards what's felt deeply. And what's felt is often irrational, chaotic, and totally uncontrollable. This is why the man who holds emotional gravity, the one who doesn't chase, doesn't explain himself, and carries himself with a calm, almost dangerous energy, inevitably outshines the guy who's constantly begging for understanding and approval. Because women aren't just looking for a 24/7 safe haven. No, they're searching for something far more intense, meaningful emotional experiences that shake them to the core. And more often than not, those experiences don't come wrapped in gentle kindness and polished manners. Instead, they come from a man who challenges her, makes her question everything she thought she knew, who stirs emotions she can't put into words. The man who doesn't feel the need to justify or explain himself because, simply put, he doesn't have to. That mystery, that unpredictability, that quiet intensity, it triggers her mind and body in ways no grand romantic gesture ever could. Want to understand why the bad boy trope never fades away? Because it taps into something primal inside her. Not just rebellion, but a raw, unfiltered assertiveness. It's about self-focus, unapologetic certainty, and the refusal to apologize for being exactly who he is. Make no mistake, women aren't attracted to toxicity. They're drawn to authenticity and unwavering certainty. The problem is, most good men miss this entirely. They water down their energy, censor their truth, and tiptoe around feelings trying not to ruffle feathers or scare her away. But in doing so, they become invisible. Because the truth is, she doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a real man. Let me be honest with you. You're not always Mr. Polite either. Ever notice how women say, "I love a man who makes me laugh," but then you see her magnetically drawn to the guy who barely cracks a joke? That's because humor isn't just about telling jokes. It's a form of emotional mastery. A man who can make her laugh knows how to create and manage tension, how to build it, hold it, and then break it just at the right moment. That's exactly what attraction is. The push and pull, the unpredictable dance between storm and calm. That's why smooth talkers, confident teasers, and emotionally intelligent men who know how to control the tempo are so magnetic. Not because they're simply funny, but because they're fully alive in the moment, unafraid to lead the rhythm and set the pace. Here's a paradox that trips a lot of men up. The more you validate her too early, the less she values your presence. The more compliments you throw before she's emotionally invested, the more you blend into the sea of other guys. Sure, it feels good in the moment, but it doesn't hook her, because validation that isn't earned feels cheap and empty. What women crave deep down is to earn your attention. Not because they want to manipulate you, but because earned attention feels authentic. It means you see beyond the surface. You're not just handing out praise to get laid or to score points. You're making her feel genuinely seen. And that feeling, that's what transforms casual curiosity into burning obsession. Now here's what confuses her the most. A man who's attracted to her but doesn't chase her. A man who's available but not always reachable. A man who's kind but never submissive. That contradiction, it's maddening, intoxicating, and deeply compelling all at once, because attraction isn't about being the obvious best choice on paper. It's about being the most felt choice. The man who stirs emotions, any emotions, and leaves a lasting imprint on her heart and mind. The man who commands emotional gravity without needing to explain, prove, or justify himself will always have the upper hand. And here's the wildest part. Even she can't always explain why she's drawn to that man, because attraction is a complex symphony of unconscious signals, emotional currents, and ancient wiring that doesn't answer to logic or fairness. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it's beautiful in its chaos. So if you ever find yourself wondering why being nice or good doesn't always cut it, it's not you, it's the nature of attraction itself. It's not about being perfect or predictable, it's about being real, alive, and emotionally magnetic. The reason you stand out, the reason you break through her usual patterns, is because you're not predictable, you're not boring, you're not needy, but you're not cold or detached either. You're simply solid, calm, and fully present. And that calm presence, it speaks louder than any poetic text message or grand romantic gesture ever could. While other guys are stumbling over themselves, trying too hard to impress, you're just being you, steady, grounded, unshakable. And that energy, that quiet confidence, is hands down the most magnetic force in the world. Too many men waste years trying to crack some invisible code, memorizing lines, practicing tactics, chasing formulas. But the real game isn't about tricks or smooth talk, it's an inside job. It's about who you are beneath all the noise. Not what you say, not the flashy moves you pull off, but the energy you carry, the standards you refuse to compromise, the peace you protect fiercely. Women can sense that energy instantly. It's an unspoken signal that cuts through all the noise, and when you cultivate that, something almost magical happens. You don't have to try to make her want you. She'll be drawn to you without even understanding why. And that right there is the paradox. Confusing, illogical, but fundamental to attraction itself. You've probably heard it a million times. I just want a nice guy. But here's the truth. When a truly good man shows up, calm, kind, and fully present, she often feels nothing. Why? Because nice alone doesn't move her emotional world. Nice doesn't create tension. It doesn't spark desire. Nice is safe, yes, but it's also often boring when it's served without any edge or depth. Women crave contrast. They want a man who can be gentle and grounded and assertive and unpredictable. They don't want someone who just nods and agrees. They want someone who challenges them, makes them think, and stirs emotions. The man who isn't afraid to say no becomes far more attractive than the man who always says yes. Why? Because one ignites her emotional aliveness. The other makes her feel like she's already in control. The feminine doesn't respond to words alone. She responds to energy. That's why you can say everything right and still lose her. If your energy feels needy, hesitant, or unsure, she'll feel it immediately. Once she senses you're chasing, seeking approval, or looking to her to fill some void inside you, you lose polarity. She doesn't want a boy searching for a mother. She wants a man who stands firmly in his frame, anchored in his truth, not someone begging for permission to lead, to love, or simply to be. And here's where the paradox really kicks in. The moment you stop needing her validation, that's when she becomes magnetized to you. That's attraction. That's the illogical math of female desire. Why do you think women so often say, "I don't know what it is about him," when describing the men they're drawn to? It's never about his looks, his job, or his social media game. It's about his vibe, his essence, his silent language, the way he carries himself when nobody's watching. That quiet, intense presence that screams, "I don't need to prove myself to anyone." That kind of man triggers something primal and profound in the feminine psyche. It sparks curiosity, tension, and a subtle challenge. She starts wondering who he really is, and once a woman starts wondering about you, her desire has already begun. Here's something few men ever hear. Women are emotional archaeologists. They dig deep with their feelings, testing and probing with their behavior, unearthing truth through chaos. It doesn't make sense to the logical male mind. Why stir up drama when things are peaceful? Why test a man who's already good to her? But in her mind, this is how she gauges strength. She wants to know how solid you really are, how much you can hold your ground when the emotional seas get rough. What she's really trying to see is if you bend, if you break under pressure. She wants to feel your edges, your boundaries, your strength. Not because she wants to tear you down, but because paradoxically, she feels safest when she knows your frame can't be shaken, not even by her. That unshakable core is the fortress where she can truly rest. Then there's the ever-elusive mystery of timing. You could be everything she's ever dreamed of, but if you show up too early, before she's done chasing her emotional highs, before she's ready to settle, she might not choose you. Not because you're wrong for her, but because you're too right, too stable, too real. Real love, with its depth and intimacy, can be terrifying to someone still addicted to the chaos of emotional roller coasters. It's a cruel irony. You think being the best choice should matter most, but in her world, the emotional journey, the thrill ride, matters more than the logical right decision. Until she's burned out from the highs and lows, she won't be ready to anchor herself in calm, steady waters of real intimacy. And here's another brutal truth. The more she likes you, the less she wants to show it. Vulnerability is risk. Modern dating has taught many women to guard their emotions, to hide too much interest because it's perceived as weakness. So she plays it cool, delays her responses, waits for you to lead. Meanwhile, you're left questioning if the connection was ever real. This is why emotional intelligence is the real game changer. The man who stays grounded without needing constant validation can feel her attraction even when she's pretending otherwise. He doesn't chase, he lets it unfold naturally. That patience, that calm presence, it's what drives her wild. She'll say things that scramble your logical brain. I want a man who listens but also leads. I want a partner but he has to dominate me. I don't like games but he has to keep me guessing. Trying to untangle these contradictions with reason is a losing battle because her attraction isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a dance to be led. She doesn't need you to figure it out intellectually. She needs you to move through it confidently, to navigate chaos without flinching, to be the man who walks into uncertainty with steady footing. And here's a truth that flips logic on its head. If you're too emotionally available too soon, she'll pull away. Attraction is timing sensitive. Give her the whole world before she's emotionally ready, and it feels like pressure, overwhelming, suffocating. She hasn't earned it yet, and without that emotional investment, your affection feels cheap and invasive. But if you reveal yourself slowly, like a book she can't put down, layer by layer, chapter by chapter, then each moment becomes precious. You're not flooding her with love. You're inviting her into love. And when she feels like she's choosing you rather than being chased by you, that's when obsession ignites. Notice how the man who says less often leaves the deepest impact? That's because mystery breeds tension, and tension is the oxygen of attraction. The moment she thinks she has you figured out, the thrill fades. Not because she's shallow, but because her emotional body craves novelty and unpredictability. Novelty doesn't mean being someone you're not. It means holding back just enough to keep her leaning in, just enough to keep her wondering, just enough to make her work, because a woman values what she has to earn. What costs her nothing rarely holds her attention. This is why the most powerful seduction is often silence. Not ignoring her, but being calm, present, and refusing to fill every moment with words or jokes. Let the space breathe. In that silence, she projects her own feelings. She starts feeling, wondering, imagining, and once a woman's imagination is engaged, you're already halfway to her heart. Most men never figure this out. They talk too much, give too much away, and talk themselves out of attraction. But the man who can sit in silence, let her feel her own desire rising, that man doesn't chase women. Women chase him. And here's the ultimate irony. Women often fall hardest for the men who confuse them emotionally. Not because those men are cruel or manipulative, but because their unpredictability keeps her on edge. It creates emotional spikes, highs and lows that feel intense, alive, and utterly addictive. The guy who shows up, then vanishes. The one who's hot one day and cold the next. It drives her mad, but in a way she can't resist. In a world where boredom is the enemy, a man who brings emotional movement, whether it's positive or negative, commands her attention. Now, I'm not saying you need to become toxic or manipulative, but emotional control is power. The man who masters his reactions, who owns his presence and attention, commands respect. Most men give that power away in the name of love. They respond to every mood swing, chase every breadcrumb, let their day revolve around whether she texts back. But the man who stays grounded, who's too solid to be pulled by her emotional waves, that's the man she can't ignore, because he's not reacting to her, he's leading the interaction. And leadership? To the feminine, it's irresistible. Ever wonder why the man who acts like he could walk away at any moment is the one she holds on to the tightest? Because that energy says, you're optional. And when you're optional, you become valuable. It's paradoxical, but it's how the game works. If you center your life around her, she feels suffocated. But if you remain the center of your own world and invite her in, if she earns her place, she feels excited, alive, and eager. She leans in, she craves more, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you actually are hard to get. And that's what transforms mere interest into burning desire. Here's one more mind bender. The less emotionally available you are at the start, the more effort she'll put in. It's not about being cold or distant, it's about being selective. It triggers her protective instincts, her nurturing nature, her drive to break through your walls. And once she breaks through, she's invested, not just emotionally, but mentally, physically, spiritually. That's when desire evolves into something deeper than infatuation, deeper than lust. It becomes attachment, and attachment is the foundation for love, but love, real love, built not just on kindness and stability, but on confusion, chaos, emotional risk, and unpredictability. That's the truth no one talks about. Attraction is a wild beast. It thrives on contradiction. It demands energy, not explanations. It loves paradox, mystery, and silence more than talk, plans, and promises. If you want to truly understand what women want, stop trying to make sense of it. Instead, learn to navigate the emotional tides. Be the man who doesn't just listen to her words, but reads her silence, feels her moods, and rides her storms without losing himself. That's the kind of man who becomes unforgettable, because attraction isn't a checklist. It's an experience, a vibration, a dance of energies. When you master that dance, she won't just want you, she'll need you. Because the feminine is drawn not to logic or predictability, but to the man who embodies confidence, calm, and chaos all at once. The man who is both the storm and the shelter. The man who can break her heart, but also hold the pieces. The man who doesn't chase her, because he's already chasing something greater than her. And paradoxically, that's what makes her chase him. If you want to be that man, start with this understanding. Watch as the impossible becomes possible in your relationships, in your dating, and in your life. Because attraction never made sense, and it never will. But when you stop fighting the chaos and start flowing with it, you'll realize it's actually the most beautiful kind of sense there is. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. If this message spoke to you or gave you something to think about, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new drop. I've got more real talk, more growth, and more power coming your way. So stay locked in. And if you're going through something right now, just remember, your silence can say more than 1,000 words ever could. Take care of yourself, keep rising, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.